Tonight, I'd like to share with you this interesting topic. Hopefully, we can learn something out of this discussion. Primarily, lately, probably you have heard a lot of big case a lot of scammer, a lot of cheating, a lot of white collar crime, all being so-called conducted or being surfaced in Singapore. So for one reason or the other, sometimes we become very trustworthy, we just like quite easily part with our money without doing all the due diligence. So anyway, some of those are not really true investment, some are really investment activities. But anyhow, I'd like to share with you tonight is on this subject of investment, so the risk and reward. So as usual, we start with the disclaimer. The information and materials provided in this talk is for education purpose only. Nothing presented in this talk should be construed to be a recommendation to buy or sell any specific security. The information, software, and techniques presented should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. Singapore Microcomputer Society, SMS, and its executive committee have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with this talk. So successful investing is about managing risk, not avoiding it. So this is a quote from Benjamin Graham, the famous author of this book called The Intelligent Investor. Okay, successful investing is all about managing risk, not avoiding it. Long before Americans talk about FOMO, which is the popular saying, fear of missing out, something like similar to Singapore mentality, where our local mentality we call kiasu. What is kiasu? Taken from the Chinese dialect Hokkien. Kiasu translates to a fear of losing out, but encompasses any sort of competitive, stingy, or selfish behavior commonly witnessed in this high-flying city state. Sometimes letting opportunity pass is tantamount to failure, the thinking goes. So, and if you do, you have no one to blame but yourself. Some from 走雞啦, miss opportunity啦. But also a fear of losing can also trigger paralysis when it comes to risk taking. Sometimes you worry this, you worry that, you think about that, you think about this, you calculate here, you calculate there. Then after you do all the calculation and consultation with all your gurus, then you miss the opportunity. So sometimes you analyze too much, also headache. So kiasu or kiasulism means taking extreme measures to achieve success, whereas kiasi or kiasilism means to take extreme risk-avoiding measure. So both these, I highlight these two topics. These are both the extreme situation, whereby sometimes because you're so kiasu that you miss the opportunity, then you seem kiasi, you also don't want to invest. You say, are you sure you can make this amount of money and this percentage? No. Are you sure? No. How many people have able to achieve that and all this? You will question a lot of things before you really decided to park your money in or invest your money. So investment products at a glance. So for start, we look at the various class of so-called investment products. We start from the lowest risk or no risk is saving. You in Singapore, at least when you put money or deposit, save the money in the bank in the form of saving or fixed deposit or whatever deposit, the risk is supposedly very low. And then the return also very little, not negative, or sometimes in the inflation environment, it become negative. Then effort is almost no need to have much effort. So once a year or once a month, you look at your bank book or look at your fixed deposit ticket and all these. So not much efforts are required. So this is the lowest end of the scale in terms of so-called investment products. So one step higher, you have the endowment, which is quite popularly promoted by the insurance-related businesses. Endowment effectively means you either put up one lump sum of money, which is saved which is invested on your behalf by the insurance company for a period of 5 years or 10 years, and then you're supposedly your capital will be protected, and then you will also have some insurance coverage, and then at the end of period you'll get a certain return, maybe let's say over 5% or 6% of around that region. So you have protection, you have saving, and then you have so-called capital protection, and you have saving, and you have so-called dividend or the interest earned for this period. And so this endowment thing is actually quite often being introduced by the insurance company as a short-term investment feature. They say, okay, you have some children going to school or going to the university in how many years' time, or going overseas study. So you want to do a regular saving plan so that by the time they are reach the age of maybe 16 or 17, then you can your policy can mature, and then you can withdraw your policy and then use that fund, which is your saving plus the interest gain, and use it to support or to provide the funding or the fee for the child's higher education, be it in Singapore or overseas. So this is the endowment so-called instrument. Effectively, endowment instrument also is risk is relatively low. The return also relatively low, and then the effort also not much, because after you committed on the policy, you just continue to service the policy, and then when you mature, then you just withdraw. So in that sense, it's quite a easy job. You know need to, once you are convinced of the plan and the safety of the company or insurance company, then you can just continue to service the policy. Right. So next, the level higher up are the bonds. Traditionally, bonds is something like IOU document, IOU certificate, in a way similar to your fixed deposit ticket, except bonds normally come in a much bigger size, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, and bonds are for the lower risk type of bonds. There are different category or different class of bonds. You have what I call government bonds, and then you have corporate bonds, or you have semi-government bonds. Take for example, in Singapore context, bonds issued by the government, you can also subscribe. It's called SGS bond, and every month they will have an advertisement in the newspaper saying that, hey, this bond is inviting participants to subscribe. So by and large, most insurance companies or corporations, where they have excess money, they will park some of the money inside the bonds, so that as a form of diversification, and also because during the short-term period, because bonds not necessarily you hold it to maturity, You can, some bonds are, let's say 5 years, some 10 years. You can buy, if it's a 5 years bond, even after it's been listed, you think the returns are quite attractive, you still can buy in the what I call the secondary market for the shorter term bonds. That means, going to expire in 1 or 2 years time. So companies may like, quite often they do that also. So they will buy those are called shorter term corporate bonds or government bonds. So essentially, the returns are not so that good if you buy already in the secondary market, but at least the returns are better than saving or endowment and all this. But bonds are typically a bigger ticket item. So if you want to subscribe to bonds, all this is normally you're talking about 250,000, 500,000 or 1 million type of ticket size. So by and large, only corporations and these insurance companies and all the banks, they will subscribe for bonds. Then in Singapore context, not too long ago, Singapore government primarily to satisfy some of the so-called demand, they have also reduced the size of the ticket. Instead of the 250,000 minimum or 200,000 or this, they make it affordable in the sense they have bonds that are marketed or traded in tens of thousands. I mean 10,000 or multiples of 10,000. So, but just to so-called to meet the demand or the request by some investor, but by and large, these bonds are generally not so popular with the average investors, because average investors say, oh, the bonds also need to do some homework and need to assess the bond, whether it's a government bond or statutory bond. And then if you need to draw down the money, sometimes the bond will normally pay you the what I call coupon. That means the interest every 6 months. So 1 year you get twice a year the dividends or the interest. So by and large, also you don't need to do much work once you selected or decided the bonds, the type of bond, whether it's a government bond or state board bond or this corporation, this company bonds, they call it these corporate bonds. So once you do that, then you more or less taken care already. You don't need to worry about it, doing much homework. You don't need to balance a portfolio or these things so often. So next, one step higher up is the unit trust or mutual fund. Unit trust or mutual fund actually is simply explained is a basket of shares or baskets of products that they group together that allow you to invest. And then most of the unit trust, they charge you, or the fund manager will charge you what I call upfront free fee. And then when it matures or when you withdraw, they will charge you a so-called a withdrawal fee. So as a result, it is not so popular in the sense. And then unit trust, after they also have an annual management fee and all those things. So after all this, the actual return from buying unit trust may not be so attractive. So that's why supposedly, of course, if you're talking about unit trust based in Singapore, but you are talking about unit trust worldwide, that means the unit trust that is issued from different countries, or issued by different countries or different banks or this thing, US Bank or Citibank or this thing. Those unit trusts, they invest in certain products or certain countries, which is supposedly higher risk, so will give you higher return also. So that's why you will notice here in red here, they say it's higher risk Let me belakang pusing first. So that's why over here they stated shown in red, higher risk and higher return, but effort-wise, once you decided on the product, the type of unit trust, you don't need to constantly do much homework already. So next, higher up, exchange traded funds. Exchange traded fund is a newer instrument being introduced in the market. Okay, exchange traded fund is effectively the behavior of the exchange traded fund is like a unit trust, except that this exchange traded fund, they call it ETF, is traded in the stock exchange, just like a share. So the ETF can be related to a group of share. It can be related to a particular so-called another instrument. Example, there are ETF traded in Singapore exchange known as the Spider ETF, which is it's basically a gold ETF, which is connected to the ETF, the gold price in London. So effectively, you are holding a paper gold, and you no need to pay insurance or protection or whatever thing when you buy this type of paper gold. And then if you want, you can convert this paper gold to a solid gold though, right? This is a so-called how diversified nowadays exchange traded fund can be, all right? And exchange traded fund also allow one to participate in or invest in countries outside your country. Example, you can buy the exchange traded fund of related to an index, related to a basket of share in Hong Kong or in China or in Malaysia or in Thailand or in US or in Europe. So you can buy exchange traded fund that has the structure such that it is related to certain type of, but example, some exchange funds are related to this what I call high-tech stock. Some are related to property stock. Some are related to this what I call real investment trust, real estate investment trust. So there are various categories of exchange traded fund. So once you decided or selected all, you don't need to put in much effort already. But just like unit trust, it can be high risk and high gain now. So stocks, most of us are familiar in the stock market. So stocks, you need to put in a lot of effort to do the selection, to study all those things before you can so-called select the type of stock that you think will able to outperform the market or able to give you the type of return. And generally, because stocks are supposedly more volatile, so they will have the returns are much higher compared to the other instrument, and also the risk also higher compared to other instrument, right? So another one, next one is the latest so-called type of instrument that you can consider to invest in. And this instrument is called cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is that I think most of our members have already attended a talk about cryptocurrency and how to invest in, how to identify what are the exchanges you can possibly participate in and all things. But primarily, this is a digital currency that is not sanctioned or approved by any central bank. That means there is no authority that endorses or approve such sort of currency. And because it is done through the so-called the electronic network, whereby they try to do away with middlemen, So it is supposedly to be very transparent and very traceable. That means that means the moment that particular coin is being born or what, at which time, all these things, all these records are all so-called will be captured by the system. All right. So this one is very high risk and very high return, and you need a lot of effort to select the right choice. So this is the highest end of the scale. So this gives you at a glance of the type of investment product and the risk and return. Primarily, I want to show you this is the risk and return of the instrument that you invest in. All right. So coming back to tonight's topper, successful investing is about managing risk, not avoiding it. So the synopsis is, first part is investing responsibly require putting risk first. Then we talk a little bit about what I mean by value at risk, VAR, and then the mentality that we should, whatever thing we do, we should not be too greedy. And also we should not be too fearful either. That means when you're greedy, that means you'll be at one end of the scale and you become fearful at the other end of the scale. So we have to set out some schedule of your activity. And then finally, we have also to take care of our lifestyle expenses before we're talking about investing. And finally, we have a summary to recap what we have discussed. Right? Why we talk about irresponsibly require putting risk first. Often when we invest, we always ask, hey, how much return I can get? Or how much, after 1 year, how much can I get back? That means we always talking about the return, but we don't, our first question is not ask how much can I lose? So we always ask, how much can I make? That is always the first and sometimes the last question. So if you are responsible, first question you should ask, how much could I lose? Before you're talking about how much can I gain. When you understand how much you are going to lose, then you will be so-called, you will take one step backward and look at the thing in the bigger picture. Because from the start, knowing from the start what you can lose and realizing it is something, realize it something you cannot afford, you can conclude that this is an investment you should not get into. So example, just like before the top popper, Fiona mentioned that she's being invited by some Ponzi scheme promoter to invest in certain thing. So if after you hearing a thing and you find that it's too good to be true, then you should stop at that level already. You should not be being so-called lead into or being convinced further that you go one step or two steps further to decide to withdraw money from your bank or decide to write a check already, right? So first, we're talking about investing in a particular instrument. If if you realize that it's too risky, then you should not get involved in that instrument. And if it's a portfolio, that means you are not only investing in one instrument, you are investing in a portfolio. Quite often you talk to a fund manager or your friendly relationship manager, they will try to structure some type of portfolio for you, or sometimes some fund manager or some insurance company will encourage you to, okay, you buy this investment linked insurance, and then you buy certain type of investment in our insurance company and this and that. So your $500,000 will be work out to be this, how we will help you to distribute or space out your investment, whether $500,000 or 100,000 or what, into different type of fund. So this is what I call a portfolio. So example, if you are rich enough, your banker may ask you, okay, Mr. Rich, why don't you invest 2% in your cryptocurrency, invest in so-called corporate bonds, the high risk bond, another 10%, and those unit trust, how many percent? So you directly in stocks, buy Apple share or buy Yahoo share, how many percent? So they will construct a portfolio for you. So your advisor will adjust your asset allocation. So the objective of normally of constructing a portfolio is to so-called adopt the concept of uh, diversification, because normally when we construct a portfolio, one instrument and versus another instrument. Take for example, the conventional stock portfolio is stocks and bonds. So when interest rate rise higher, people will tend not to invest so much in shares or stocks. They will instead move the money into bonds. So effectively, like bonds and equities, they move in different direction or move opposite to each other. So normally, well diversified portfolio, they will specify maybe 40% share, 60% bonds or what, no? At certain time. Another time they say, oh, you're so young, you can afford to have 60% shares and only 40% bonds or fixed income instrument. So this type of dividing or diversifying your portfolio is normally handled by your investment advisor or your risk, your what I call friendly, so-called banker, or your relationship manager, or if you are rich enough, your private banker. On the other hand, if the loss that you can accept or you can afford the time to gain back later, then you can be mentally prepared. So should the loss become a reality, effectively all this particular slide try to remind us that when we get involved in any investment exercise, first thing we will ask, how much can I lose? Can I afford to lose? Do I have the time, or that means am I young enough when even after losing, I can make back over the years to come? That means your so-called your runway is long enough, so you can afford to fall down and climb up and continue to move on again. So this is called the responsibility that you have to take when you start to invest, because at the end of the day, you will call the shot, and whether you make money or lose money, or you lose some and you gain some in the end, in the process, is all decided by you. So that means if you approach it with this concept of how much can I lose, can I afford to lose, and if you can answer all these questions, then you can move to the next step. Okay, that being the case, I can afford to lose this amount and I have time to make back. So okay, let's go and invest. And then you have certain investment objective, all right? Whether it is to invest to buy your next house, or invest to fund your retirement, or you fund your child's overseas education, or you want to buy a better house. All these are your investment objective, all right? So traditionally, when you talk to your investment advisor or your relationship manager, investing response requires putting risk first. How to figure out how much an investment could lose? Now, most of the time, you talk to your friendly RM, relationship manager or advisor, they will usually quote you a volatility or standard deviation figure. But man on the street, like you and me, quite often we may not understand this topic, what I mean by standard deviation. They will show you a lot of nice charts and tables and all those things about the standard deviation of this product or this instrument. So if you understand this concept better, then you can even know the concept of risk better. We look at volatility tells you how much returns are likely to deviate from mean return. It is a range of return. Take for example, somebody tell you, okay, your mean return is actually a what called statistical way to describe the return. That means it's an average, it's a mean average. Those who understand statistics, they will know what I call statistical mean, what mean, and what there are many statistical terms to describe the return. So statistical mean return is because the statistical chart is a bell chart, right? So you have the two extreme. The center two standard deviation is called the two alpha from the median or the mean. So sometimes they have what I call average. This is the average. This is the return. So they have the mean return. So when it's do statistics, they look at the mean return. So it's a range of return. So if volatility is 10% and the mean return is 5%, so your expected range of return would be between 5% to 15%, because volatility is 10%. That means you can swing from 5% minus, that means you can swing to minus 5%, and you also can swing to plus 15%, because that is the volatility or the standard deviation is quoted in 10%. Or standard deviation figure is 10%. So that, again have to, what kind of sing? So volatility therefore does not actually tell us, investor, what they could stand to lose. That means if your RM tell you that the volatility of this product, this particular investment is 5% or 10% or 8%. That means within this 5% or 8% or 10%, that means there's a range that the gain or loss can fluctuate. So if this example we're talking about, volatility is 10%, and the mean return, that means your historically it has calculated that you can make 5%, or the product able to give you 5% return. But statistically, it has been shown that also that because this product is very volatile, so you have a chance to make 5%, you also have a chance to make 15%, but on the negative side, you also have a chance to lose 5%. So if you understand the whole range that this product is going to give you, so you have to tell yourself, can I accept a 5% loss in order to able to get 5% gain? That means I also have to prepare to lose 5%. But on the brighter side, that you also have a good chance that you will be able to make up to 15%. So basing on this so-called statistically calculated data, so you have to convince yourself that is this game or is this product too risky or not risky for me. So that's why risk is described by those investment manager RM in terms of standard deviation. All right. Next, a better way to measure risk is what we call this concept of value at risk, VAR. This figure specifically tells the maximum amount of loss you can expect over a certain time frame at a particular confidence level. This also statistically calculated formula. So determining this number will require you to know three types of numbers: your maximum loss, the time frame, and the confidence level. Confidence level, example, a portfolio of a 5-year VAR of 20% at a 99% confidence level over 1 year. This means over a 5-year period, you stand a 1% chance of losing more than 20% of your investment in a year. So this will give you a better idea of how your portfolio will react in both normal and bad time. All right. So this concept of using value at risk will better define the so-called your investment over a period of time, 5 years. And then within 1 year, what are the possibility of you to lose within 1 year? So even a portfolio of VAR of 20%, that means the 20% value at risk type of situation, with a 99% confidence, that means the statistically formula say that there are 99% chance that you can also lose 20%. And this is calculated over a 5-year period. And in that means this is worked out on 5-year time duration. But within any 1 year, that means during this 5 years, within any 1 year, there is still a 1% chance of you losing 20% of your investment in a year. So this will give you a good idea of how your portfolio will react in both normal and bad time. All right. So that means bad time, you can lose up to 20% within a year. Good time, you may lose less. But we always not so worried about losing. We always think about only gaining. I mean, how much I can make, how much can I make? That is the big problem that most investors face. So value at least we continue. So always be careful to consider a product's VAR in the context of your investment. Sometimes we try to understand what does this VAR mean if I set aside 10,000 to invest. So a loss of 10% for a 10,000 investment means a loss of $1,000. Now we're looking at absolute numbers. At first we're looking at percentage. Now we're looking at loss means how much in absolute money term. So the same loss of 10% of a $1 million investment will be a loss of 100,000. So you can see that there's a huge difference. So you should assess the possible loss in terms of both percentage and absolute dollar value. This is especially important. You have multiple investment of different sizes. You might be comfortable with a 10% VRL for one investment, but the same VRL may be too high for a larger investment. So when we approach this investment so-called game or investment exercise with value at risk concept, we have to use certain comparables to tell yourself that, hey, can I afford to lose this amount? So take for example, for a smaller time investor, to invest $10,000 and then you have a VAR of 10%, that means you may say you can have a chance to make 5% or 6%, but the VR is 10%. That means the volatility that can cause you to lose more or less is 10%. So you will notice that, can I afford or can I not afford to lose this $1,000? So if you think that you can set aside $10,000 to invest, hopefully I can grow my 1,000 over 10 years to be 14,000 or 15,000. Normally, compounding, the theory of compounding is that over a 10-year period, you should make about 7% per annum over the period. So a loss of 1,000, if you can so-called swallow this bitter pill, that means you think if you can afford to lose that 1,000 for investment 10,000, so well and fine, you can proceed with that investment exercise. But another case, let's say you are quite well off, you have different baskets of investment. You have this type of investment, another investment. So another investment, you are putting aside $1 million in terms of dollar value. And then you also have a VAR of 10%. So in this case, this second case, you have to ask yourself, hey, in any particular year, I have a chance of losing $100,000. Am I game for it? I mean, is it something that I can accept? So when you look at the chances of you losing a certain amount of money, you also compare again whether this instrument is too risky for you. Because if the return is, let's say, only about 7%, 8%, and then you start to able to lose up to 10%, does it make economic sense to really you invest in this type of instrument? Sometimes maybe not, because if the VAR is 10%, what for I go and risk so much risk for the return that is not commensurate or comparable to what I should get, right? So value at risk, we have to always think both in terms of percentage and in terms of absolute money. So next, we look at this concept of don't be greedy. Now, so when can you afford to be greedy and when you can afford not to be greedy? So investors who have close to what they need for retirement or about to reach their financial goals should adopt a more conservative portfolio. Now, when you are much younger, building up your finances through working, to investment, all these things, to achieve certain financial independence over the time period, because businesses go to boom and bust. No business cycle, they go to different boom and bust cycle. Some previously maybe it's 5 years or 7 years. Now in the internet age, the boom and bust can be even within less than a year. The beginning, because of the volatility is very high, and then the so-called the business cycle for certain type of businesses can be very fast rise and can go down very fast also. So as an investor who have close to your financial goals or you're retiring, we should be more conservative, right? So we accept a lower rate of return and corresponding lower VAR. Normally when the VAR is higher, you will have expect the rate of return is higher. So risk and return always go side and side. So you should adopt a lower VAR, will be sufficient to meet your need. Do not take on extra risk when there is no need. All right. So greed can be a powerful driving force even when it does not feel like greed. Sometimes it feels like excitement over the prospect of making lots of money for nothing. The excitement can lead us to miss or ignore the warning sign that something is too good to be true. Yeah. Tonight, my whole discussion, this is the part that I like to so-called highlight or remind ourselves or remind our audience that why lately you probably heard about a lot of high profile people or rich people also invested in certain so-called nickel businesses or what. I mean, nickel is an instrument that or a metal that is a very valuable for the electric car industry. The battery of the electric car needs this nickel as one of the components to make the battery. So nickel is a very important industrial goods or metal that is highly sought after. In fact, it is much more in demand than gold and silver now. So this investment scheme that has been highlighted or become a top of the town court case is that some rich people has so-called been sold on the idea that this investment scheme is can be trusted because it has been in the market for a number of years, and the early birds or those who invested earlier, they promised 15% return over every 3 months, it was fulfilled. So in other words, 15% every 3 months, no? So this is very exciting, right? What is the warning sign? Warning sign is 15%. And then also warning sign is time frame is only 3 months exposure. You can get this type of return. So sometimes we have to step back and ask ourselves. You look at the first few slides where I show you about the different class of instrument, what are the low risk, medium risk, higher risk, what are the return, and how much effort you have to put in before you can get those type of return. So this particular investment scheme, effort is very little. We just tell you, okay, you trust me, you trust what I can do it for you. You just write me a check, and that's it all. Very little effort. Then after every 3 months, you get the return. Wow, very good return, high return. Of course, the high risk part is still there, but people choose to ignore. So, and when this blow up, that means with the Ponzi scheme blow up, then people will say, alamak, how come I never do due diligence? When we say do due diligence, that means how come we did not investigate? That means we do not check how real is this investment is actually done. Often, we have to ask, or even in Singapore context, often you can actually check the MAS website. MAS website often highlight they suspect or there are some suspicion of certain investment product are so-called floating in the market or circulating in the market, and they will warn you to be careful of this type of investment scheme. They cannot strictly tell you that, hey, this is very dangerous. They only can use some warning sign that these are not endorsed by us, and these are not so-called approved or endorsed or approved by the MAS. But if you choose to invest, you have to take your own calculation and do the due diligence accordingly. It means you have to find out who are you dealing with, who are the bankers supporting this business, and then whether this business is only available in Singapore, or actually this type of business is also being done in different countries, and then normally for this type of business being carried out or undertaken in other countries, what type of returns are being promised or given, and then what type of time frame they are talking about. So this is what I call due diligence. When you do due diligence, you do comparative study of similar business venture, what type of return they are getting, and what type of time frame you have to endure, and what type of businesses actually are they involved. Whether it's something to do with electric car, or something to do with gold, or gold with silver, or something to do with designing aircraft to go to space. So you have to understand or know more, and then if possible try to find out this guy who is transacting the business, who is their counterparty. That means who are they buying the gold or the silver or the titanium or platinum from, which party. They show document, but these are all cooked up documents, not genuine. So if you have somebody have tried to write to the particular exchange in Australia or whichever country, hey, understand I invest in this certain transaction that is related, that you are the selling party, we are the buying party. Can I know, do we have any business dealing with my company, my investment company? So if you try to write to them officially, they will reply to you and say, hey, we didn't do any business with this company that you claim that you are investing in. Then you find out like, hey, something not right, man. You smell the rat already. So these are what I call the things that we ought to do, to do due diligence. That means you do find out directly or indirectly, to find out actually who are they dealing with, and your company is dealing with which party, and all these things, and who are the bankers supporting them, and all these things. All these things, and who their lawyer, and whether this particular type of businesses, is it registered under as an investment company, or registered as a manufacturing, or registered as a trading, or registered as a what type of business. And then this type of business, are they regulated by any regulator? Let's say you want to do a so-called in Singapore, you want to start an investment company. There are a lot of criteria that you have to fulfill, and then you have a lot of licensing that you need to comply and all these things. So, but for that scam, that particular one, MAS felt that because this particular project or investment is not targeted to the man on the street. That means they are targeting on the sophisticated investor. That means those customers of theirs are sui key. That means just like the private banker, when you are a private banker client, you sign an undertaking that whatever the private banking company do for you, you understand that you can lose all your money also, and then you cannot sue the bank because you are a private banker client, that you are a sophisticated investor. So you are not legally so-called allowed to take legal action against the particular investor, and then you sign the letter before they do all those investment for you. So many a time we heard over the news, or we read in the papers about certain parties suing and counter suing, all these things, like the famous investor Wee Hong Leong. He also ever sued Citibank for not taking good care of his investment in certain risky treasury products and all the currency. So that's why MAS in this instance do not get involved, because they say they are serving a different class of customer, and they are not under the scope of certain legislation. All right. So don't be fearful either. So often, because the fear of losing money is one of the main push factors that keep people from investing. So of course, you want to make money, you have to prepare to lose money. And then how much you prepare to make, and then how much you prepare to lose, you have to weigh the pros and cons. So it's common to find people who place all their funds into fixed deposit that risk meager returns over several years. You know, of course, fixed deposit rates sometimes going to go up to quite high, and sometimes they go to very low, and now become zero or almost zero. And then in some countries, you put fixed deposit with them, they charge you interest. They give you interest, they charge you interest because there are too much money floating in the market. So the average 2% inflation would have eroded the purchasing power of your saving. Take for example, in Singapore, it is worked out on statistically that our country's average inflation is in the region of 2%. So effectively, when CPF give you 2.5% or something like that, the so-called interest, so it's just nice or good enough to take care of the inflation of 2%. On average, like certain years we don't have inflation or our inflation become less than 1%, then you can't do lah. Okay. As usual, the first thing or first exercise that we have to consider before we talk about investment is we have to partition your fund into different baskets for different needs. So our bread and butter or our emergency fund should at least keep us able to survive 6 to 24 months worth of expenses in such safe instrument as fixed deposit. So to take care, I mean, even when the FD is very low, 1% around that, sometimes you have no choice but to have to keep that amount of money to make certain so-called returns from you, so that enough to cover your living expenses for at least 24 months, 6 to 24 months. All right. This is a more conservative approach. Then after setting aside this amount of money for your living expenses or lifestyle expenses, then the rest of the fund you can consider will make use of the money to work hard for you in a globally diversified portfolio. So if you're really looking at a truly good portfolio, it should be geographically, globally diversified. It means you cannot just put all your investment portfolio in single country exposure. Take for example, by and large, most of small investors will just invest on products that is generated or country is Singapore only. Of course, many a time we say, hey, Singapore relatively safer than elsewhere, whether it be a bank or a company. So with an asset allocation at corresponding level of risk based on what you can safely tolerate, helping you to achieve your financial objective, right? This take care of lifestyle before you lock in investment. So summarizing, investing is about managing risk, not avoiding the risk. Summary. So we have to ask how much investment you are prepared to lose before how much you prepare to gain. So we have to understand the concept of VAR, which is a measure volatility showing level of loss, and then your level of loss should be able to live with in terms of percentage or absolute term. So when we look at VAR, after knowing the percentage, we also have to know in absolute dollar value, how much does it work out to be, all right? So in life, try not to be greedy. Consider what return you need to achieve your goals instead of what you want, all right? You can want this, you can want that, but can you afford to risk that money in order to get what you want, right? So besides, don't be greedy. Also, we shouldn't be, the other extreme is to be too fearful. Greed put us at risk of losing money, but fear put you at risk of never making any. So we have to ensure that you're able to cover your basic lifestyle expenses before you look at more risky instruments. Finally, this is the part that is most challenging. So when the typical investor will only, when they are, because of the kiasu mentality, 爱保命保价. So yeah, this kiasu. Hokkien is kiasu, pasu is Chinese or Mandarin. So when there's a 50% discount or very good attraction, wow, I see long queue, or it is Hello Kitty toy, buy, everybody long queue, so everybody want to buy. So when people feel that, too good an investment there to miss out due to cancel mentality, a lot of people will go in. But on the other extreme, those of us who are very 惊死的，因為怕死的，唔好搞我I better just leave my money in the bank, inflation eat away my money, doesn't matter, but better than get people those daylight robbery or those 騙局, those scammers to take away all your money, right? So these two is the two extreme that typical the mentality of a typical investor. So, and sometimes you can reflect on it and say, hey, I belong to which side, or you are in the center group or what, right? So thank you. So I come to the end of the discussion. We can have some question and answer.
Can I ask Tommy?
Sure.
What is NOOBS? NOOBS, your first or second slide, I think. Or the one on, yeah, investment, NOOBS. What does the acronym mean?
Oh, this is social media. I see. Oh, NOPS is a proper English word. It represents a person who is inexperienced in a particular sphere or activity, especially popular use in the computing or the internet world. So newbie 没有经验的人 newbie notes.
Okay, thank you. First time I came across this word.
Yeah. At least I thought you turn off your video. I thought you are sleeping. At least you were watching.
No, I don't like to put on the video. Because most of them have their picture. I don't know how to even post my picture. That's why I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't put. Sorry.
no problem. Any other interesting
The other one I
questions?
want to ask you is the unit trust.
Why?
Nowadays, unit trust is not as popular as like maybe what 20 years ago, because a lot of my colleague actually lost a lot of money, or friends lost a lot of money because unit trust there is a margin call, and they say they actually lose a lot in the long run. Every time it falls below a certain price, they have to top it up. They keep topping up. Then they told me at the end of the whole investment, when they want to take back their capital, they actually have losses rather than any gain because they keep on topping up.
Okay.
Am I right? It's not so
Okay.
popular now, right?
No, unit trust concept whereby, like example, you are very busy, you don't have time to analyze your stock investment and all these things, and then you tell that bonds, the returns are not so great also. So unit
Mm-hmm.
trust provide like they claim it's a basket of shares, can be a link to a index, can be linked to a certain group of stock, or can be linked to, now the unit trust got very sophisticated unit trust already, they got all sort of unit trust. So your case of a friend who lose money, you have to top up, that one I think in the first place, I don't know whether it should classify under a unit trust or type of mutual fund, because the concept of unit trust and fund is that
Are they the
on
same?
the
Unit trust and mutual fund, are they the same meaning?
in US they are called mutual fund. In this part of the world they are called unit trust.
Okay.
So sometimes they say that, hey, I don't have so much money, so never mind. Instead of you buying OCBC, cost you a lot of money, like 1,000 share, it costs you almost $10. You only can afford invest $100, $200 every month. Can you buy a unit trust? So that means you keep on building up your unit trust. Maybe that unit trust costs you uh, uh, $200 per unit. So you buy every month, you subscribe 200 lah. That means you build your unit trust, so that assuming that the unit trust is growing up, because unit trust normally in the past, unit trust always consistently, like the portfolio is quite consistent. If you select the good unit trust, the pricing are always moving up. So this is always on the upward climber. And then because that concept was, unit trust normally invest in so-called more stable companies, so that they are always on the upward trend going up. Because as I share, in the long run, if nothing happen in the business cycle, you should continually climb up, whether the angle is very sharp or not so sharp angle. So, but because unit trust involve quite a bit of management fee, you have the fund manager that manages the unit trust, they will charge a fee, and then when in order to they have to engage salespeople, whether it's a broker, remisier, or the RM, or the bank's RM, or the fund end sales staff. They will have to sell you the unit trust, and then they have to be rewarded. So that's why the unit trust will have what I call front end fee, or normal about 3 to 5%. The unit trust quite expensive for initial outlay. So, and when you redeem, some of them they have no redemption fee, but some also have redemption fee. So there again they cut something out of you, and then sometimes often we did not ask, or most investors never ask, how much is that management fee every year. So that again will cut away some of your return. So net unit trust, most of the time most people were not able to make money out of unit trust. The banks and the unit trust companies are the one who actually make the money to service you, or to take care of the pockets of the manager and the sales staff. So unit trust is not something that you can trust. So that's why now
No free lunch by Chan Chan. Yes, it's true.
so right now unit trust has become not popular already.
Not popular anymore.
Yeah. So and the next thing they have come up with an exchange traded fund. It's also another basket of instrument. So this is another type of thing that they have come up with. So anyway, I hope all of you do not I mean beside the phone scam, this is DBS Bank, or you want to get your PIN number and try to get your money transfer, or somebody want to apply for a job, also scam. So there are so many scammers in the market, but they are targeting the low end. But for those of you who are higher end one, then you will be targeted by other type of investment scheme. Can be related to sometimes selling certain housing or what I call resort or some type of time sharing. Last time at one stage we have a lot of time sharing so-called products, and then you have
time sharing holiday,
homes selling, and then also land banking. At one stage, land banking was quite popular. So they invest in Canada, Vancouver, or Toronto type of land. Everybody's scared. Hey, my land is very big, no. But after investing, there's no project built, and then there's no people taking over from you, or no development on the land. Then how? You only get grass growing on your land only. So even I have my good friend who lives in Canada now. He also invested quite a bit on land banking. Initially, the figures were quite interesting. Say, wow, my land bank give me this return. So I asked him, who is going to take over your land bank, or who is going to buy over your land bank? You see, the government going in that direction. They may develop the land and build highway or build some government project, housing project. Talk only but nothing happened. So I think if it's too good to be true with those return and then all these things, then I would say that they don't need to come all the way to Singapore to ask you to invest. They will have just invested themselves and benefited themselves. There was also one case of France or Germany, also some sort of housing project or low cost housing project, or what those are of. They came here to ask people to invest in, promising about 7 or 8% return and all that. So subsequently also died. Also, they found out that so-called project cannot kick off. It's only on the blueprint stage only, cannot kick off. So this type of so-called investment thing, if you live long enough, you were able to see more of all these scam and all these things that were so-called happen. So you need to really send out your antenna to sound to get all the Wi-Fi signal. Make sure you are so-called well informed of all these things, and open your eyes wide. Anything that is so-called, you see, the bank engage so many so-called people, specialists, all those things, accountant, and then when you deposit money in the bank, they give you a good time. They give you 100%, 1%, 2%. But you borrow from the bank, they'll charge you 4-5%, right? So they make the difference. So imagine if the bank charge you, let's say, bank when they lend money to you, they borrow money from you, is so-called secure, and they lend you, they also want you to be secure, whether against property or against the directors guarantee. If you are a business, they only very careful. They only make sure cover themselves left, right, and center, no? So imagine, but bank when you lend you money at an interest of 5%, 6% or so, secure against a property or against something, they still have a lot of clauses, a lot of legal documents to protect themselves. So you just use this figure to tell yourself, if some other people who offer you investment scheme of return of more than this percentage, and then you don't need to sign a lot of complicated documents, and you don't know who how to in case of sudden failure, who were able to back up, whether which big organization is behind this type of project or something. So if you cannot really get good answers to all these things, then I think we have to really shy away or avoid getting involved in all these things. Because the moment you are greedy, that's where you get stuck. Oh. Any other question?
No,
No,
thank you.
then
Thank you very much.
If no question, then we're going to watch Olympic Games opening ceremony.